Most people think quitting sugar mainly affects their waistline, but the first organ to react is your kidneys. The moment your blood sugar drops, insulin begins falling and your kidneys instantly shift their delicate balance. They release more sodium and water, creating the subtle dehydration that makes headaches feel sharper on day one. We will uncover the full kidney connection in the next section, and you'll see why this matters enormously. But before that, something far more immediate happens inside your brain. And it explains your first 3 days. When sugar disappears abruptly, your reward circuitry reacts with a shock your body never learned to ignore. Dopamine, the molecule of anticipation, drops rapidly, leaving your brain searching for stimulation it once expected. The nucleus incumbent, your pleasure center, becomes unusually quiet, almost as if someone dimmed its internal lights. Harvard researchers note that frequent sugar intake dulls dopamine receptors, forcing you to chase sweetness more intensely. When sugar is removed, those receptors begin waking up again, but the process feels deeply uncomfortable at first. This discomfort is why you feel restless, irritable, or strangely emotional. Even when you are not physically hungry, your stomach is calm, but your brain is screaming, demanding the reward surge it once received effortlessly. This is what scientists call hedonic hunger, craving driven by habit and emotion rather than genuine nutritional need. And here is the twist that surprises most people during these early days without sugar. The stronger the craving feels, the more aggressively your dopamine receptors are beginning their reinsensitization process. Your headache isn't a sign of weakness, but of neural circuits recalibrating after years of overstimulation. This recalibration mimics a mild withdrawal, revealing just how deeply sugar intertwined with your daily mood. Stanford imaging studies show dopamine pathways shrink with repeated sugar surges, reducing their sensitivity over time. Without sugar, these pathways begin repairing, attempting to return to their original sharper responsiveness. That repair process feels chaotic because your brain is relearning how to interpret pleasure without artificial spikes. The emotional turbulence of day 1 to 3 is therefore less about hunger and more about rewiring. You are not starving, you are detoxing from a stimulus your brain mistakenly labeled as essential. This is why the discomfort hits before any meaningful change in energy or metabolism appears. But beneath this chaos, an early healing window has already opened. Even if you cannot feel it yet, each craving wave is evidence that your nervous system is taking its first steps toward balance again. And once your dopamine stabilizes, the cravings will fade, revealing a calmer, more predictable appetite pattern. So these first 3 days are not a punishment for quitting sugar, but the neurological price of freedom. By the 4th day without sugar, your cravings begin to soften, but your body is preparing a quieter shift. The organ leading this transition is your kidneys, the silent filters managing every drop of fluid you carry. For years, high insulin kept them holding sodium tightly, trapping water you never realized you were storing. NIH researchers describe insulin as a hidden fluid retention hormone influencing your kidneys far beyond blood sugar control. So when you quit sugar and insulin finally drops, your kidneys interpret this as permission to release pressure. Sodium begins leaving through urine and water follows, creating the first visible change most people notice. Your face feels less swollen in the morning, your jawline sharper, and your eyelids lighter than usual. This transformation isn't vanity, it is physiology. The first sign your metabolic load is beginning to ease. Many people mistake this early weight loss for fat loss, but it is something much more temporary. For every gram of glycogen you stored, your body held nearly 3 grams of water beside it. When insulin falls, that water reservoir empties rapidly, producing the dramatic early shift on your bathroom scale. This is why losing 1 to 3 kg in the first week is completely normal and even expected. But here comes the subtle twist that often confuses people trying to quit sugar for the first time. As water leaves, electrolytes leave too, creating the dizziness, fatigue, or sugar flu sensation many describe. The problem isn't the absence of sugar, it is the sudden imbalance of sodium, potassium, and magnesium. Mayo Clinic physicians emphasize that hydration without minerals can worsen symptoms, prolonging headaches and early discomfort. This means that drinking more water alone doesn't help. You must replace what your kidneys are releasing, even a pinch of salt. Leafy greens or mineral water can stabilize this internal chemistry quickly and gently. Once electrolytes stabilize, your kidneys begin working in a smoother, more energy-efficient rhythm than before, and the deep puffing effect intensifies, giving your face a clarity you may not have seen in years. Your abdomen also feels lighter as trapped water around your digestive tissues finally begins dissipating. This is your kidneys breathing again after years of compensating for high sugar and high insulin. But the relief they experience now is only the beginning of a deeper metabolic restoration ahead. Because once water weight settles, your body prepares to change its fuel hierarchy, shifting from sugar to fat. That shift begins around day 7, and it marks a turning point far more profound than appearance. In the next section, you'll see why your energy dips before it stabilizes, and why your brain fog peaks first. Before we continue, if you've been enjoying this video so far, leave a comment with one so I know this content is valuable to you and so we can keep creating meaningful videos that you won't want to miss. By day 7 without sugar, the visible change is slow, but the internal struggle becomes impossible to ignore. Your energy dips unpredictably, and a heavy fog drifts across your thoughts with surprising intensity. This fog is not failure. It is the metabolic friction created when your fuel system begins shifting. For decades, glucose has been your default power source, fast to ignite and easy to obtain. But now, with glycogen nearly empty, your body turns toward a slower, older biochemical solution. Your liver steps into its evolutionary role, generating glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. This is not dietary sugar, but freshly synthesized fuel, designed to protect your most delicate cells. Red blood cells, kidney medulla cells, and certain brain regions still require glucose to function. So the liver rations glucose carefully like a lantern keeper, preserving fire through a long night. This metabolic transition feels uncomfortable because your system is abandoning convenience for endurance. Researchers at the NIH describe this shift as the rebuilding of metabolic flexibility, a lost human advantage. And here is the paradox. Your weakest feeling days arrive right before your strongest metabolic phase begins. Your fatigue is the sound of your energy hierarchy being rewritten from the inside out. As gluconeogenesis stabilizes, enzymes responsible for breaking down fat become more active and more available. Your cells begin using fatty acids more efficiently, feeding your muscles with steadier, longer-lasting fuel. Meanwhile, mitochondria are forced to adapt, increasing efficiency to support this new energy landscape. This adaptation creates smoother energy without the highs and crashes tied to sugar-driven metabolism. But your brain resists at first, struggling as it transitions from glucose toward ketones for fuel. Ketones burn cleaner than sugar, but neurons need time to accept this new metabolic language. The brain fog you feel is simply the rewiring process, not a sign of harm or deficiency. Once adaptation occurs, many people report clarity more stable than anything sugar ever provided. But for now, this discomfort marks an ancient survival system waking, remembering how to operate without excess. And after day 10, a more visible transformation begins. One involving inflammation, collagen, and the way you age. By day 10 without sugar, the mental fog begins lifting, and another transformation quietly takes its place. You notice your skin looking slightly brighter, your joints feeling lighter, and your face less inflamed. These changes are not cosmetic luck. They are biochemical consequences of removing sugar's hidden burden. For years, excess glucose attached itself to proteins through a process scientists call glycation. This reaction forms AGEs, toxic compounds that stiffen collagen, weaken elastin, and accelerate visible aging. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic describe AGEs as molecular rust, slowly damaging tissues from the inside. When you quit sugar, this rusting process slows, allowing your skin and connective tissues to breathe again. Your collagen fibers, once pulled tight by sugar bonds, begin regaining their natural flexibility and softness. This flexibility explains why your joints feel less swollen, less stiff, and less resistant to movement. Meanwhile, your immune system becomes noticeably calmer, no longer triggered by constant sugar-induced inflammation. Sugar spikes stimulate cytokines, inflammatory messengers that elevate pain and worsen chronic conditions silently. With sugar gone, these cytokines decline, giving your tissues a long-awaited moment of peace and repair. This reduction in inflammation is why breakouts diminish, redness softens, and the tired face starts disappearing. But here comes the surprising twist many people overlook during the stage of quitting sugar. Your body doesn't just reduce inflammation, it reallocates energy towards cellular renewal and tissue repair. Without constant glucose surges, mitochondria experience less oxidative stress, allowing them to function more efficiently. This efficiency creates a subtle vitality felt as steadier energy and seen as brighter skin tone. Deep within your bloodstream, insulin continues declining, lowering the inflammatory load carried by your arteries. Even your gut receives relief, producing fewer inflammatory byproducts that once circulated systemically. This internal quiet allows your nervous system to stabilize, making your mood more grounded and less reactive. And the cumulative effect is striking. You begin aging backward at a pace you can actually feel. But this phase is only the prelude to an even more surprising shift happening near day 14. Because as inflammation drops, your appetite signals realign, your taste buds awaken, and your sense of fullness changes dramatically. We explore that next, where quitting sugar stops being a challenge and starts becoming a new baseline. By day 13 without sugar, something unexpected begins happening. Not in your skin or joints, but on your tongue. Your taste buds, which renew roughly every 10 days, have finally replaced their sugar-dulled predecessors completely. For years, excessive sweetness overwhelmed them, forcing natural flavors to compete against an impossible standard. Now, without constant sugar exposure, these tiny sensory cells regain sensitivity they quietly lost over time.
This is why a simple apple suddenly tastes vibrant, complex, and surprisingly sweet again. But taste is only the surface, because deeper hormonal changes begin shaping your appetite with remarkable precision. When insulin stays low, your brain finally hears the hormone leptin clearly, often for the first time in years. Leptin is your fullness signal, the internal voice whispering enough long before overeating begins. High sugar intake silences this voice, creating a biological illusion of endless hunger and constant snacking. With sugar gone, that silence breaks, and your body regains its ability to stop eating intuitively. This is why many people feel satisfied earlier, even when eating less food than before. But the transformation doesn't stop with appetite. It reaches all the way into your brain's wiring. Sugar reduction increases BDNF, a growth factor responsible for memory, learning, and neural resilience. Harvard neuroscientists often call BDNF fertilizer for the brain because it strengthens synapses and supports clarity. As BDNF rises, your thoughts feel steadier, your mood deepens, and emotional eating loses its familiar grip. You no longer chase food for stimulation. You eat because your body genuinely needs nourishment. This distinction marks a powerful shift, moving you from craving-driven behavior toward calm internal regulation. Your digestive rhythm follows, becoming smoother as your taste buds and hormones realign with natural cues. Even small meals feel more satisfying because your brain finally processes sweetness and fullness accurately again. This recalibration is the moment many people describe as food freedom, the end of compulsive sugar dependence. And by day 14, you realize something profound. Quitting sugar didn't just change your diet, it changed your perception. But before the journey ends, one final chapter remains, a chapter about safety, balance, and the long-term wisdom required. 14 days without sugar is not an achievement to boast about, but a biological mirror reflecting your true metabolism. Throughout this journey, you have watched dopamine reset, kidneys decompress, inflammation fall, and appetite signals reawaken. But the deeper purpose is understanding the kind of clarity that lets you see your body without distortion. Science shows that removing sugar temporarily reveals patterns you could never notice in everyday routines. Yet science also reminds us that such a reset demands responsibility, especially for those with medical conditions. For anyone using insulin or sulfonylureas, abrupt sugar reduction risks hypoglycemia unless medication is carefully adjusted. Endocrinologists emphasize that dosage changes must be supervised because medication cannot adapt automatically like your organs. Another important consideration involves the adrenal system, which governs your response to stress and metabolic demands. For individuals under chronic stress, cutting carbohydrates too sharply can elevate cortisol and disrupt natural rhythms. Symptoms like anxiety, sleeplessness, or internal tension are not failures, they are hormonal feedback signals. There is also the psychological landscape where disciplined eating can subtly drift into extreme restriction. Orthorexia often begins with noble intentions, but becomes harmful when food turns into a source of fear. If you feel guilty for small choices or anxious about occasional treats, it is time to pause compassionately. Because the goal of this experiment is awareness, not punishment, and balance, not rigid perfection. Yet here lies an interesting twist that many people experience after completing 14 sugar-free days. Some discover that their cravings vanish so deeply that returning to old sweetness feels strangely foreign. Their taste buds sharpen, their energy stabilizes, and sugar no longer provides the emotional comfort it once did. These individuals do not avoid sugar out of fear, but because their biology simply stops requesting it. It becomes a preference shaped by clarity, not a rule shaped by restriction. A quiet shift rather than a declaration. But this path is personal, and not everyone must or should follow it permanently to gain benefits. For most people, long-term health comes from moderation, not elimination, from consistency rather than extremism. Your body thrives when given space to repair, but it also thrives when given kindness and flexibility. So let these 14 days serve as a reset, not a lifetime vow, unless your body gently chooses otherwise. Whatever path you take next, remember this: your body is wiser, calmer, and more adaptable than you realize. Hope this video brought value to you, and see you in the next one.